Okay, so let's walk through opening our Fault Pro student software and starting our first lesson, which is a AND circuit that you previously should have. If you go through the trainer intro, you'll see me wire that up. Plus, if you'll look on your handout online, you'll see that there is a PDF inserted here. We go all the way back to where that skill is. We'll see that it says starting 16 is control logics. Here are the skills, and you can open up this skill PDF. And that is also available online in your Amatrol. And that will walk you through the AND logic and using your trainer. So, first thing we want to do is make sure we are on the same computer that we plan on being on through the entire process. This stores grades locally. It's not set up for a network, so it is going to store the grades locally on the computer that you are working on. So whatever trainer you work on is the trainer you need to stay working on. That way I don't have to hunt through all the computers for your grades throughout the process or the class. So stay on the same computer once you start working faults. So we are going to go to all programs. We are going to look for Fault Pro. And we are going to open up the student login screen. Make that full screen. I'm going to enter the ID. You'll be provided with an ID and a password. Notice the ID is a number. This only takes number logins for IDs, so you need to double check that your name appears with this ID. So we're going to hit OK. And it says the student is John Doe. Your name should be right here. If it's not, then we have an issue. Come see me. All right. So in your assignment sheet, it said that we wanted to do skill 6, control logic. Now we have some fault modes over here. We're going to pick random fault. Okay. And we can practice as many times as we want to. Then we're going to take our test, which should be graded on completion. Those are the grades I'm going to pull to make sure and put into your final calculation for your grades. So let's select practice. And we're going to hit OK. All right. And so here we see at the bottom a fault number. Okay. And these are all the possible faults on our trainers listed all the way to 35. Okay. And so I'm going to go back to the top and I am going to hit the start button. I should hear a clicking sound come from my trainer, more than likely, maybe not always, but that would tell me that inside there it's opened or closed some circuit. I will see a green light saying the fault is active, and it wants you to figure out what is wrong with the circuit. Okay. And it will be one of these numbers down here. We will not use all of these, are not going to be active, only what's in the circuit. The way it shows in your skills, then it will be one of these numbers, but we're not going to be using all of these because the first one, M1 motor, does not run when entered. We're not hooking up the motor, so that couldn't be the fault. Okay. So let's go to our trainer and take a look at that. All right. And so I'm going to go over to my trainer. First thing I want to do is make sure that it is not working. Looks like it's not lighting up. And so now I'm going to start troubleshooting. Now we can use our own meter, but remember the voltage has to be disconnected to use that. I'm just going to use voltage. So I have my meter set on 200 volts. I've added a connection here to my ground. double check my meter before I start to make sure it works. So I'm going to come over here on this rail and make sure that yes, everything's hooked up and I'm reading 24 volts. And so now I can start walking through this circuit looking for the fault. So here, we're going to begin walking through this circuit. Remember, I'm looking for 24 volts on my meter, and I will activate. So first thing I want to do is, yes, I have 24 volts. All right. I'm going to check starting left to right, just like a book. I'm stepping through this. And I see that when I push this button, we'll activate the first push button. I'll see that I still have 24 volts on this side of it. I'm reading 24 volts. Okay, let's see if we can't get our meter in the equation here without too much problem. All right, so reading 24 volts here. Push the button here. Remember, it's an AND circuit. So if I look here, I'm still reading 24 volts. All right, so I'm going to check the next push button. Still reading 24 volts. I'm going to hold my second button in. I have two buttons pushed in. And I'm going to check for voltage here. Wait a minute. I have voltage here. And I have nothing here. All right. So what I can do here is I would say that the normally open contact on number 2 push button has failed. I can use my own meter if I'd like to double check that, but I would have to turn my power off to use the ohm meter. So if I turn the power off and I turn it to continuity check and I move my probe up here, I would see that this button is not working. See, I was to check number 1 button that I know works. And that would be how I would troubleshoot my first fault. So we know from this example, the number 2 push button, normally open, is not working. And so let's go back to our Fault Pro screen and enter that and see if we are correct. So first I'm going to identify the fault. And we know that we're looking for number 2 push button. So notice the designators here. I'm going to scroll down until I see number 2 push button. 2 limits. All right. Here we have some options. It says number 2 push button, normally open contact, failed or shorted. Well, that's not the case because the light did not come on. So let's look here. At the next option, it says number 2 push button, normally open contact, failed, open, does not close when actuated, which means when I push the button or actuate the button, it does not close. So that's the fault we've troubleshooted, and I'm going to enter that number and see if we're correct. And hit the enter button, and it says my answer is correct. All right. And it says my faults mastered are 1 through 4. All right. And so if we want another fault, we should be able to clear the fault and hit the start button, which does not appear to be working. But we can hit exit and click random fault mode again, and then hit start, and that will give us another fault. When I'm ready to take my test, I can hit random fault mode, take a test, and it says test mode. Enter this mode when ready to be tested. Fault Pro will randomly insert faults into the system from a fault pool selected by the instructor and track your troubleshooting progress. So we'll hit OK here, and we'll go through this, and it says faults mastered, and we'll repeat this until we've mastered all of our faults.